Hey, onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out this week's episode of the One Man Podcast. It's always free and available on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and many more, as well as on the web at onemanpodcast.com. So please, whatever platform you're listening on, like and subscribe. While you're at it, give it a rating, leave a review. Why? Because it helps the podcast, and I'd really appreciate it. How about that? What about social media? Search One Man Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to keep up with what's going on there. Get a little extra content for yourself. And finally, to get in touch, please send your emails to contact@onemanpodcast.com. You send it, I read it on the podcast. That's the deal. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode.
What's up, guys? This is comedian Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 144 for Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. How's it going, onesies? How are you guys doing? How are you doing with your lives? What's new and exciting with you? Listen, I have got a big thing to tell you this week, and that is a huge I'm sorry. I have, this episode is being recorded well after the date. But yeah, I had a ton of stuff going on. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm just going to need you guys to know that there's no way I could have done this in any kind of productive way up until now. To make it even the slightest bit entertaining or what have you, I've just been like, I've brought I can't tell you how many times I brought my handheld recorder, how many times I have brought my regular recorder, try to get things ready to go and just could not happen. And despite the fact that I will be telling you about my week, you might go, well, Josh, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on. You know what? I'm recording this all the way from Scotland. I am in Glasgow, Scotland at my hotel. I actually carved out an admin day just to get this podcast done. So rather than drinking in pubs, I am sitting here in my hotel recording what will be one of two already late episodes of the podcast. So I want you guys to know that I love you and I didn't forget about you. Big shout out to my buddy Mark, one of the onesies out there, who was basically messaging me, calling, go, hey man, miss the pod, what's going on? So big thank you to Mark, the only person who has recognized the fact that the podcast is 2 weeks late. So yeah, thanks for that. And I'm glad that there's some people out there actually looking forward to, what is it telling me that I'm liking my own messages now? What is this nonsense? Okay, it's just people. Oh man. Excuse me. I have been sick. Even though the podcast is 2 weeks late, the same sickness that I would have told you about on that episode at the time, I'm still fighting. I've got some sort of lung infection that just doesn't want to leave, and it is absolutely ridiculous. So this week I'm going to tell you guys about my appointment. I got a new thing in my life here that we'll see. Hopefully it takes me to a better place. I did some samplings and some demos and things like that. I will tell you all about. Also, I got to hang out with some friends, made life better, seeing some people that I really care about and that I love having in my life. And let's see, just make a little note here. Doodly-doo, doodly-doo, Hey, so I got, I hung out with some friends. What else did I do? I got a bunch of meat lists from you guys. Some of them have even happened in the last 2 weeks, but I will incorporate them into this episode. So, got a little green tea here, trying to make things better on myself. So I guess this one's not going to be super duper long unless I just start going off on a tangent I wasn't aware I was going to do. Excuse me. That was another reason too, like trying to get the podcast done, but just hacking and gagging. Like there were some nights where I was coughing so bad. I'm like, this is going to be nothing but me coughing into a microphone and powering through everything just to say that I recorded a podcast. So I'll tell you guys this. During that particular week, I'll say this week for the sake of anyone listening in the future, moving backwards, I got referred, I want to say a while back, a friend of mine gave me a phone number for a psychotherapist. Not a psychic therapist, a psychotherapist, a shrink. Now, I don't know if I've made this clear in the past, guys. I am not somebody who, for a very long time, I was the kind of person who's like, yeah, I don't want to, I get the value of psychotherapy, but I read a lot of psychology books and things like that. And I get a lot of the issues that people have. And I know the things I need to work on. Like I know I'm unhappy with, my work and my weight and things like that. So, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just bang it out, and I'm gonna figure this out on my own, and I'm gonna just try to, I'm gonna do the things I know I need to do. Right? You work hard, you'll get results. You don't work hard, you won't. Like shit like that. So it wasn't until like a while into my relationship and things like that, and things were going bad, that I was like, all right, maybe this is outside my own hands. Like it took me, it wasn't until I was midway through my relationship before I recognized the fact that I do have anxiety. I don't have crazy panic attacks or anything like that. Like that's the thing I've told people all the time. I go, I never have panic attacks. I'm just in a constant state of anxiousness. What's going to go wrong? What could go wrong? Make sure you don't get caught with your pants down in terms of preparation. So I heard my buddy, Paul Verzi said, this is a more simplified version of it, and he uses it as a work ethic thing, but it's kind of how I feel all the time. In case you're wondering, like, why are you fucking anxious all the time? He's got a statement that says, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And I kind of like, my anxiety sort of takes on that form in the sense that, like, it's not like, oh, I'm just preparing. It's like, okay, for me, it's preparing for any situation that could happen. So I'm constantly going, okay, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Like I got a million things right now on my trip that I'm anxious about, and a million things that happened, that you guys will hear about on the next episode. But yeah, nothing funny yet. The accents here are great, by the way, but we'll get into that in an upcoming episode, guys. So yeah, I'll just let you know, this is Thursday, recording this Thursday, February 21st. So, you take that 12 on the date and you flip it. That's the time period I'm in. I am recording this for you from the future. Anywho, so a friend of mine, it took me years in my relationship to be like, I think I have anxiety. And then I was like, all right, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I obviously have some, mental shit that I need to take care of, as we all do. In case you're listening, you're like, no, I don't need therapy. You probably do too. You probably got some shit to work on. For starters, why the fuck do you keep coming back to this negative cesspool of self-doubt and everything like that? I wasn't coughing like this all friggin' week. I was a little cough, but now all of a sudden that I'm talking constantly. I got a cough, Reno. I didn't drink any whiskey too. For like the last 2 months, just due to the fact that I've been sick, and you're sick and not like, let's get wasted. I'm just like, ugh. Not to mention the emotional pain that I was going through, right? You don't want to start drinking and then all of a sudden you're doing drunk texts and things like that. No, you try to take better care of yourself. So all that, blah, blah, blah. Let's get back on track. So I was always in the impression, I'm like, yeah, I could really probably make use of a therapist. But I'm a comic. I don't have any health insurance. I don't have any medical coverage. I don't have any benefits. And when you look at the cost of psychotherapy, it's sometimes, well over $100 per session. So I didn't have $400 a month to see somebody. So I was just like, okay, this is just something that's not available to me. Hence my trying to read and learn about psychology and things myself, trying to learn about stuff that makes you, crazy. Also, crazy, it's funny now that crazy is not even a thing, right? They used to be like, oh, this person's crazy. I was just the lunatic on the street. They're nuts. They're crazy. Lunatic. Now there's so many different, like we have so much better understanding of different mental conditions and things like that, like anxiety and stress and schizophrenia and things like that. So now it's like, there's no such thing as crazy anymore. Now it's like, oh shit, what mental illness does this person have? It'd be literally like if, 300 years ago, that person's just sick. It's like, well, what do they have? Like meningitis or, do they have lupus? Do they have bronchitis? Strep throat? They're just sick. Stay away from them. They cough and there's goo coming out of their head. Excuse me. So I had a friend who, we were having a games night one time and he was chatting with me about, this therapist that he was seeing, whatever. And he'd mentioned to me that this guy's actually he's actually covered by the regular healthcare. And I was like, interesting. So he's like, yeah, let me get that info at home and I'll send it your way. So I would say I got this info from him in December. And of course it wasn't until I hit my particular low in January that I'm like, I gotta reach out to this guy. I gotta reach out because I'm not doing well on my own. So made the phone call. Dude called me back and said that, he would agree to see me and assess me. So this particular podcast, I am only reporting that I went there to see him on Thursday morning, and he had said that basically like I'd have to come in for like an assessment, and basically what he'd do is, he'd ask me some questions, he'd figure me out a little bit, and then try to decide whether or not what I had was something that he would be able to help me with, or if he'd refer me to somebody else. And in my head, of course, the catastrophe right away, I'm like, well, if you're going to refer me to someone else, then, thanks for having me and I appreciate your time. And that's it. Cause someone else may cost or whatever. So, but he explained to me that the way that this works is it's like, he'll figure out if he can help me out. And then it's like something like a 12 to 20 weeks thing. So it's a temporary, psychotherapy thing. So, but 20 weeks is a long time. And some help is better than no help. So I figure, this is somebody on the outside looking in, maybe he can help me out, and we'll see where it goes from there. So they're only 45-minute sessions. They're not a full hour, but again, I'm very happy to have an outlet and a little bit of hope. As I've seen most psychotherapists, doesn't really say much. And when he does, it's kind of like very neutral, which I'm sure is a super important part of it. Like, the more personality he has, the more it's almost like you're just trying to talk to some dude. I don't know. I don't know how it works. All I know is that psychotherapists, generally speaking, are not very, personable. They don't show much of a personality. I don't want to say they don't have much of a personality, but they don't show much of a personality. But again, I'm sure there's benefits to that. So either way, I'm not there to hang out with this dude. I'm here to get some help, So I did that, guys. And in terms of the week, he just said, okay, well, that's the first assessment. We'll have you back again next week. So, according to this episode's forecast of what the next week will be, I will go back again and see him. I did some demos this week. Excuse me. Did some demos this week for Love Good Fats and Unbun. Really nothing cool to report. It was just 3 different demos. Worked a double on the Saturday. So it was basically like woke up in the morning, drove all the way to Orleans, handed out some shakes and some chocolates, or not chocolates, but like protein, energy bars, whatever it is. And then drove across the city to hand out some keto-friendly buns. Yeah, so little name drop for these 2 companies, even though they've, have not paid. I'm just a good dude like that. These Unbuns are like, I tried them. They're very soft. They got I don't want to say they have a weird texture, because they don't. They have a different texture than what you're used to. But it's it's made with like almond flour and stuff. They're not cheap. You find them in the stores in the frozen section, and it's $12 for 4 of them, which is $3 a bun. Pricey, but they're not bad. They're really not bad in terms of like. And it's, again, if you're on the keto diet, like everyone's like, oh, it's so expensive. Like almost nobody bought them. When I was doing the sampling, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It's a $3 bun. However, keep in mind, if you're on the keto diet and you're strong on the keto diet, you can't have bread. You just can't, right? That's why everyone's having cauliflower fucking pizza and stuff like that. But, these buns, they were nice and soft. If you can't have bread, this is a great way to put bread back on your menu. So, if you're like, there's even people vegetarian keto, like if you're a vegetarian keto, you can go and get yourself some friggin' Beyond Meat burgers, right? Throw those on the grill, get all your fixins, and then throw it onto an Unbun. Well, you got yourself a really nice fucking keto burger there. Like you basically, you've given yourself something back that you couldn't have before. It's pricey, but that's, almond flour is not cheap, right? And when the whole thing is pretty much made of almond flour. I don't know. It was kind of cool. So I had some leftovers afterwards, and they told me it was cool if I kept them. I was like, dirty. I will keep them then. And so I did exactly that. I kept some. I tried them out. I made some breakfast sandwiches with them. So I had egg sandwiches in the morning. And they were great. They were absolutely great. I even made some cheddar broccoli soup and just used them to dip in that at another point as well. So just cool to have some stuff. I also want to say that I don't know how many times I hit the gym. I did go with my buddy Ivan to the gym, which was great. I haven't hung out with my buddy Ivan in a very long time. He's a mutual friend of my buddy Peter's. And we've all been friends for years, but I don't think I've ever just hung out with Ivan. It's usually Peter's in attendance as well. So it's kind of cool for Ivan and I to, we just went to the gym together. We're going with Peter. Peter wasn't available. And so we decided to meet up together and hit the gym. And we honestly had a great time. We chatted, both of us chatted about, past relationships and things like that. Like I really have to say that I don't want to say the outcry, but the support that I've gotten from people is absolutely insane. again, as much as I know some people listen to the podcast and are like, yeah, you just complain. I'm like, listen, this is my outlet, guys. We're talking about therapy. I didn't have access to therapy. This was my therapy. I'd sit down and I would just kind of pour my heart out to the universe, and anyone who wants to hear it, cool. Anyone who doesn't, also equally cool. But it did its, this podcast does its job in the sense of, how funny is that? Like, I'm 2 weeks late because that's literally when I started therapy. I still had outlets, guys. You know that. All of my listeners and my friends, you guys know I'll shoot the shit about anything. I'm an open book. But yeah, sometimes, guys, if I'm in a bad place, the podcast isn't, hey, like this has never been. All right. This has never been the hey, welcome to the Williams Wacky Comedy Hour. One man podcast. This week we're going to be talking about dogs versus cats, women versus men. Like, it's never been a bullshit. I'd love for it to be funny. And sometimes I have fucking stupid thoughts that make me laugh my ass off. And on the next episode, when I start talking about how the trip has gone so far, we're going to have some funny, little moments and things that I can share with you. Sure. But the week leading up to it, I put some work on the calendar. I was not in a good place, and I'm going to do my best to something happened that I'm not even going to put up on the, I'm not even going to talk about, but all I know, but it fucked me up. It fucked me up. And I just don't want to go back to it. I've actually been, moving forward with it and everything like that. And I'm trying to get over it. And I'm just good to be me and move on with my life and all that fun stuff. So, just know that as much as I do complain on this podcast, there's some things that I just go, I don't think anyone needs to hear it. So, again, like, that's probably one of the things this week. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and, it's probably for the best that I, didn't record an episode. Let's just put it that way. So, just read my notes here. I want to make sure I get back to it. So whatever, I worked some shit on the weekends there. I also had an awesome chance to hang out with my friends. And again, I want to go back to just the whole thank you for everybody who's been, close with me and reaching out and chatting. These are the same people who were, they came out to my shows at my recordings. Just amazing human beings in my life. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Every one of you, even the ones who couldn't be there, who are reaching out or whatever. Like, I do want you to know, as much as I complain and shit on this, we're working on turning things around and whatnot. And I'm so grateful. I have such a great life. Again, like, I'm sitting across the Atlantic Ocean right now in a beautiful little hotel in Paisley, Renfrew, outside of Glasgow. Looking outside, it is raining because apparently it just rains here all the time. But, my two parents, who are both in their 60s, have never been over the ocean. So I'm already afforded an opportunity, to travel and see a different part of the world. Like, I don't have it that bad, but that's kind of one of the things that's fucked up about, like, mental illness and stuff like that, or even if it's as little as anxiety, slight or mild or moderate anxiety without going top shelf. It's just that, like, your brain sometimes forgets that. You just worry about the shit that's not happening or that might happen or all that. And it makes living kind of shitty sometimes, because rather than living in the moment and enjoying it, you're always preparing for some catastrophe that may or may not happen. But it's kind of funny because I'm not going to tell you guys any stories, but I will tell you. Yeah, well, I'll tell you on the next episode. That's just how it's going to be. But there's shit that happens that I wasn't worried about. And I'll just describe it. And I used to say this to the ex when we were together, and she'd be like, oh, why do you always have to look at things like that? But I will fucking tell. Okay, I'll tell you one quick story. I probably already told it in the podcast, but I'll give you an example. And this has always, guys, I'm telling you right now, this has always been my life. All right. That my big thing is, if I get excited for something, all right, without worrying, I'm allowed to get excited, but I have to pay the universe its pound of flesh of worry and fear and concern and all that shit. If I get excited for something, and don't get afraid, something will fuck it up. Something will fuck it up. Just the way it is. I'm sorry. I know it sounds pessimistic and negative. It has been my experience, my case study, everything. So a small example, when I worked for Bell years ago, I won a little, what do you call it? A little giveaway contest, whatever it was. I won $1,000. Won $1,000. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. Like, congratulations." And it was through like our work, reward system, which wasn't just like, "Hey, here's $1,000 in your bank account." Like, you have to like, we got told that I win. And then, like a week later, it gets loaded into like the reward system. And then the reward system, you have to cash it. You have to cash it out into like your bank account. And then there's like a transfer period time before it cashes from that. Like you process your request to have them transferred to your bank. And then once that request is accepted, then they process your bank, and your bank is going to accept it in a few days. So it was one of those things where I'm just like, okay, so as soon as they told me I won it, they're like, "Oh my God, are you excited?" I'm like, "Well, it's cool. Like, there's nothing yet. I've been told that I won $1,000. So let's wait and see what happens when I get it. Like, sure, it's great. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just not like, yay, awesome. I'm going to get this. I'm like, show me the money. When it's in my hands, I'll get excited. All right. And I remember like, when they loaded it into the Blue Rewards was what it called. Everyone was like, "There you go. It's in your account. Are you excited?" I'm like, "It's in my rewards account." All right. I'll believe it when it's in my bank account. Okay. And they were like, "Yeah, that's awesome. Great." Like, and I was still living on my own at the time. Things were expensive. So I was, okay, I will be excited when it's in my hands. And Crystal's like, "Are you excited?" And everybody was all, "Are you excited?" Not yet. I don't have it yet. I remember one of the guys from like Bell Higher Up, one of the corporate guys in Toronto who'd come to see my shows or whatever. He was like, "Hey, just a heads up." He's like, "Congratulations, dude. I'm so happy for you." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, man. That's, I appreciate it. It's really great." And he's like, "So just so you know, like the way Blue Rewards pays out, because even though we're paying you out, it's like, you could get taxed on it or whatever." He's like, "So what we're going to do is we're not going to put it," this was in January, by the way, the very beginning of the year. He's like, "So what we're going to do is we're not going to put it on your pay this week. Because if we put on your pay this week, it's going to jump you up into a higher tax bracket. It's going to take you from like X amount of grand this month to this. It's going to jump you up to a higher tax bracket right at the beginning of the year, and they'll tax the shit out of it. So what we're going to do is, just so you know, you won't see it on this paycheck. You're going to see it at the end of the year. So by then, the whole year is taken into account or whatever, and it doesn't bump you up to that tax bracket, so you get to keep more of it." I was like, "Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that." So it gets transferred into my, I'm still waiting for it to transfer to my bank account. Okay, the transfer was accepted, blah, blah, blah. Great. Now I'm waiting for it to receive my bank. I'm all happy. And this is like, they found it at the beginning of the month. And I didn't even get it for like, I think 3 weeks. So that's another thing. Like, it's like, "Yeah, you got this money. Great. Let's see it when it's in there." Just to not get excited over nothing. So finally it transfers into my bank account. And I'm like, groovy. It's there. $1,000. I'm like, this is fantastic. And I can't remember what I spent it on. I don't remember if I didn't just pay bills, but I think I bought something. It wasn't ridiculous, but I bought something that I needed. But I was like, "This is $1,000 that I need. Fantastic." And then I got my pay, and this was like, I finally got the money, and I was like, "Sweet, it's in here. Boom. Now I can get excited. I'm excited for it." And that was the thing. I jumped the gun by one step. Everyone's like, "Hey, late Christmas present, birthday present, right? Birthday's in January. Go ahead, $1,000 for yourself. Go enjoy yourself." This was also at a point in my life, guys, that I was working my ass off. I was doing like Domino's at night, Bell during the day, because my bills were through the roof. So I basically worked my ass off just to pay everything off and then start the next month over. Like, so this was a nice little like, oh, I can do something nice for myself. This is some breathing room. So got my paycheck. They put the whole $1,000 on my first thing, and I paid an additional $500 in taxes right from the get-go. So my check, the money that I was counting on, of course, to pay all my bills and all that shit, so even though the guy told me, "We're going to do it this way so you don't get charged and blah, 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 you don't lose the money," that didn't happen. I lost an additional $500, and I had to work like 3 extra shifts, take like a bunch of, like, I had to work later. We're talking like the longest days possible, at Domino's and things like that, to make up that $500 that I lost, because, even though it wasn't supposed to happen, go ahead and get excited. Anyways, I know that seems like a negative story, but I'm trying to give you guys an example of how, like, I don't get excited. That's just one of the I don't want to say most recent because there's a million little ones, but that's just an example of how like everyone around me get excited. This is great. Go ahead. This extra free money. Go blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, everybody, you guys go live your, like, listen, you know what? If the universe doesn't fuck you every time you get excited for something, I couldn't be happier. I love everybody. I don't want you guys to go through that experience. My experience has always been, if I don't panic, if I don't worry, you know, if I don't wait till everything's fucking done before I get excited, then whatever. But again, a lot of people find shit out and they get excited and they get happy right away and nothing happens. And that's a great life to live. You know, you get to do everything. You don't have to deal with any bullshit. That's not been my experience on this earth. Probably why I'm a comic. Everything I do, something weird fucking happens. You guys want to hear another story? This will coincide with next week's story about the rental. But and here we go. We're adding extra content considering we're only 24 minutes into the fucking podcast. So I remember, like, I'm the kind of guy who has, as long as I can remember, I always buy extended warranties. Always, like, let's say 80% of the time. There's the odd thing, like, you know, if I buy like a remote control or something and it's like, you want the warranty? No, I don't need the warranty, especially the prices of them. But like big screen TVs and computers and things like that, things that, like, if it breaks in a year and a half, I'm not going to be able to afford to replace it. But as much as it sucks spending an extra $300 now, if it's a $3,000 laptop, let's do that, because at least I know it's going to last for 3 years minimum. Excuse me. So I've always been a warranty guy. And I'm actually even at the point now where, like, I'm like, you know what? I've had all these things. I actually have made use of my warranties on laptops and stuff before too. So it's not like I've just bought all this shit and never used it. I got tons of warranties I never used, but it's the kind of thing where I'm like, I have, now this is not like I know for sure, but I have this horrible, again, anxious feeling that the very first time I don't buy a warranty for something, that's when I'm going to have needed it. So whatever, I'm living my life. I'm still alive. I'm across the pond, and buying warranties hasn't ruined my life. So I'm going to keep doing it. But I'm also like that with insurance when I rent a car. Like, some people are like, you can just use your own insurance. Yeah, you can. And if something happens, your deductibles, or not deductibles, sorry, your premiums will go up. So I don't want that. If I rent a car, you pay $10 a day, you have it for a week. Cool. That's $70. And I won't, if something happens, you're covered. Well, I remember I rented a car a while back, and this was the first time I ever got offered. They're like, do you want the, external and internal insurance? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, because it used to be you just bought the insurance and whatever happened to it, happened to it. But now they're like, yeah, do you want the additional? So now you buy one for like outside the vehicle for like collisions and stuff. And then you buy another one in case like you damage the inside or something like that. And it was cheaper, of course, for the inside, than the outside. Like, you buy them both. You buy, you don't buy one or the other. You can buy one or the other, sorry, but it's not like if you buy internal, it's covered. Like, they're two separate things. And I was like, well, I'm not worried about inside wrecking the car. I'm not worried about that. Like, funny enough, like, I thought about it for half a second, but I'm like, no, like, what would I do on the inside to ruin the car? I'm worried about somebody opening a door into my thing, or, me getting into an accident, but sitting in the vehicle, I'm not worried that I'm going to scratch something or wreck something. So, excuse me. So I took the external insurance and I declined the internal insurance. And this was in the middle of winter. Okay. And again, and I wasn't stressed, wasn't worried about it, right? What's going to go on? I'm not going to fuck the car up. I drove at one point to, my car, must have been something wrong with my car. I think it was during the time that they were fixing the squirrels that had chewed through my engine. Yep, that's the thing that happened to me too. But basically, I drove to a place to pick something up. While I was there, I had some store credit, and it was like, you have like $4 left. And I was like, all right, there's nothing here. It's like Canadian Tire or whatever. For international listeners, just like a giant sort of like Home Depot parts place. They dabble in the tools, they dabble in the food, they dabble in the outdoor sports things. So you figure out whatever store does that, and it was like that. So I'm just like standing at the front, and he's like, you got $4 left. So I just look over, there's a little cooler there, and they had like a Starbucks coffee drink. I'm like, I'll take that. All right, $4, we'll use up the rest, and I'm all done. So I go back down to the car, and it's one of those glass bottles with a metal screw top on it, and then plastic shrink wrapped around it. So I peel the plastic off. I just grab the plastic, and one little peel, I pull the plastic, comes off, it spirals around itself and then comes off. And I wasn't looking, because I just pulled the plastic off, and it's one of those kind of like milk coffee drinks. So the kind of thing that if it sits for a while, you got to give it a quick shake before you drink it. Well, my friends, with all the confidence in the world, I peel the plastic off and I let loose to shake this bottle. When I peeled the plastic off, the cap just came off. So the cap wasn't even screwed on. It just grabbed the plastic, and the plastic peeled the cap right off. So I wasn't looking. I peeled the plastic and I'm looking out the window, and then I go to give this thing a shake and I shook coffee all over this car. Like, here's the thing. If I was trying to shake coffee all over the car, I probably couldn't have done as good a job. Do you know what I mean? But by that, I'm saying that, like, if you're trying to, you're aware that you're throwing it. So you're almost, you might even hesitate a little bit. It's like the same as if you like walked into a wall versus trying to walk into a wall. Part of you is going to be like, well, walking into a wall hurts. So even if I'm trying to do it deliberately, part of you is going to pull back. Whereas if you don't even know, you're fucking full confidence, bam, right into it. Well, I, with full confidence, shook this coffee shit all over the car, and it was winter. So it froze to everything. So I don't know if you guys know how, I mean, I'm sure you know how liquid works, but I don't know if you've ever taken like a windshield or a piece of glass and thrown something. If you throw water or something on it, it's easy, right? Water or any liquid. You throw it on it, it stays liquid. Now you wipe it down, maybe use a little bit of spray or something like that and clean it off, clean the sticky off. Well, when it freezes, it doesn't just wipe away. It's like you're scraping slush and snow and you're working it to try to get it to melt, because it was like -40. By the way, it froze in my hair, in my beard, in my clothes. Like it was one of the coldest days of the fucking year. There was coffee all over the inside of this car. And all I could think in that moment was, hey, would you like the inside insurance on this vehicle in case anything happens to the inside of it? And I was like, no. So I basically spent my entire afternoon like cleaning, spraying, like, and it was cold. Like I like even the cleaning sprays froze as soon as you sprayed them. I probably went through 2 entire rolls of paper towel, cleaning all this shit out of the car. And in the end, I never got charged for it because you couldn't see any effects of it. But that's my experience. I have 1,000 of these stories in my life. And I realized I was trying to move away from the negativity and whatnot, but I'm trying to share with you as honestly as I can. I don't live a life where just relax, everything will be fine. I live a life where every single time I don't panic and I don't prepare, that shit happens. What cap on a drink isn't fucking screwed on? The one that I buy. The one that I buy in a rental car in the middle of fucking winter, -40-degree weather without internal insurance on the car. That's people laugh. And you know what? These are stories that I can bring to the stage, and it makes me a better comic, I think. Like, I'm just telling the story. But if I sat down and I tried to make this funny, I'm sure I'd get some fucking laughs out of it. But this is my life. My life is you stress and and here's the thing. If I stress and I worry, then nothing happens. I've paid that debt to the universe, that horrible, whatever it is, whatever horror and shit that I owe to the universe, I pay it. Excuse me. But you either pay it in the moment when it happens, or you pay it in advance by just worrying about it. But if I don't have a slightly bad experience with everything, well, it's going to happen no matter what, is what I'm trying to say. So, it doesn't always have to happen in the sense of like something bad. It just means like, oh, were you excited the whole time? Like, not really. No, I was kind of worrying about what was going to happen. And then I had a good time when I got there because I worried in advance. So let's put it that way. I worry in advance so that I can enjoy things when I'm there. But again, I have stories already on this trip where that shit happened. And in preparation for it, as a matter of fact. Was this the week that Simon and I think this, I can add this story to it. I do want to move on to some of the nice things that happened in the week. Let's see here. I'm going to cross off some of the things we talked about already. You guys are awesome. Thanks for listening to my shit. Doobity bop bop squee ba da ba doo beep ba doo ba dee beep bop boo. Hey, hey, hey. I wonder if you guys like my little tunes. Excuse me. So, Simon and I had to book I think we were trying to figure out like what day we wanted to go to Islay in Scotland. That's where Laphroaig, Lagavulin, and Ardbeg are. Some there's about, I think they said that there's 9 distilleries on the island now. There's a new one that just opened up. But anyways, to get from the mainland to Islay, you got to take a ferry. And we knew this, but I just assumed, okay, well, a ferry ride, like how in the dead season, how could these ferries, especially when they go multiple times a day, how could they possibly be sold out? Well, did I prepare and did I worry? No, I did not. So guess what, guys? Simon and I called the ferry company we went online to like look at our ferry options and whatnot. And there's not as many as I thought there would be. There's only one company that does it. And we were like, okay, so we gotta figure out what day are we going to go and what day are we going to come back so we can book an Airbnb, because our plan was to drive down in the evening one night, take the ferry over, get an Airbnb, and then wake up the next day and start our day in Isla and hit, as many distilleries as we could. And then at the end of the day, go back. But at least we'd start there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, what have you. So we looked online and we were like, oh, okay. We picked some options, and then it was like, book your tickets. And I was like, well, fuck it. We're here. Let's just do it. Went to book our tickets, and there was so much that was not available. Like, and I mean everything. Like, there wasn't a single day where we could go down the night before and then come back the next day. It was not an option. And I'm like, we can't spend 2 days in Isla. We have way too many things to do. Simon actually booked a trip to London. He's got a stepsister that lives in London, England. And so he had booked himself a flight to go down on Friday. I apologize, Thursday, and then meet back up with me Friday. So actually, Simon is not here right now. I'm doing this by myself, which also helps because Simon's like, let's go out and see everything all day, every day. For some reason, that kid can fucking sleep without issue. I cannot. But so yeah, he's in London. He's going to catch a flight. He's going to meet me in Edinburgh this evening. Excuse me. Green tea is magic. Yeah. So, what was I saying? So yeah, we went to book a ferry, no dice. So we called the number and we basically found somebody who said, I think her name was Katie. And of course she had a very heavy Scottish accent. She found us a ferry that left, Kennacraig on the mainland at 7 a.m. Okay. And it leaves, Port, like, so from Kennacraig to Port Ellen. Port Ellen is right next to like all the distilleries on Isla. So we got, she found us. That's the only thing that we could do all week. So Port Ellen, we would get there at like 9:20 a.m. and then we'd have pretty much like all the distilleries open around like 10. So it was like, you'll have the whole day on the island and then you'll catch the very last ferry from Port Escaig, which is, Port Ellen's at the bottom of Isla and Port Escaig's at the top of Isla. But they were telling me it's only like a 30 to 40 minute drive across the island. I was like, okay, well, we can handle that. So, and then that one we had to be there for like 7 o'clock to catch the last one. I'm like, is that enough time? Like 10 to 7 to see all? And she's like, absolutely. I also found out like all the distilleries close at like 4 or 5. So I'm like, okay, well, if they're all closed, then we can just drive up, we have plenty of time. We see them all in a day. It wasn't ideal because here's the thing. I'm like, well, in order to do that, in order to be there for 6 because you have to get to the ferry half an hour ahead of time. In order to get to the ferry, or get on the ferry, you got to be there half an hour. So I'm like, so we have to be at Kennacraig at 6:30 a.m. And here's the thing. We're in Glasgow. So you Google it and it's a 2.5 hour drive there. So we had to like get up, didn't have to get up. The idea is we would have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to like get dressed and get ready and drive there. So it would be a long ass day. And also to be on the ferry back, it's like a 2-hour ferry ride. So it was like a 5-hour, or it's supposed, again, I'm doing this, in the future, talking about leading up to this. It would be a 2.5 hour drive to the ferry, half-hour load time, but 2.5 hours on the ferry to get to Port Ellen. So we're talking like a 5-hour trip. And anyway, so I was like, okay, well, that's the only way we can do it. That's going to have to be the plan. Let's do that. Let's figure out this thing and book it. So again, because we didn't stress and we didn't really kind of worry that it'd be an issue. Of course it was an issue. I can only imagine how difficult that would have been in the busy season. Like you'd have to book 6 months out or something like that. Anyways, it's because we were bringing the vehicle too, right? We had to drive from Glasgow, so we couldn't just ditch the car. I didn't see any parking areas for vehicles or something. So it's like, okay, we are getting on this thing and we were going. So, bloppity bloop bleep blop bleep blah. Hey. So that was that. We booked our ferry tickets and we're like, all right, so that's going to happen. And that was also a smaller example, but it was just like, you know what? I'm comfortable. Simon kept saying too, like, hey, we should like book our day and decide which thing. So we did save a little bit of money that way by not having to book an Airbnb on Isla, but at the same time, it would have been nice to be like bright-eyed bushy-tailed because on an upcoming episode, I will tell you exactly how the trip went. So yeah, going back to things that actually happened in this time period. And anyways, yeah, a very long chat about depressing subjects like, oh, wow, sounds like you just have this negative outlook on everything. Look, I don't want to, guys. I don't want to be someone who doesn't get excited for things or stresses about them. But like I said, without illustrating 1,000 stories, I've got a ton in the bank where if I don't, something happens. Okay. And so if, you guys want to get excited about something, we have plans together and you get excited, do it. I'm not telling you not to get excited. All right. But your life experience is different than mine. Mine is if I don't, I'm just setting myself up for, it'll happen during. I'd rather just not get excited beforehand and try to prepare and then, let it happen when it happens. All right. So I got to hang out with my friends, Chris and Rebecca. Fantastic people. I got my window repaired. I think I told you guys about that. The window had an issue. Well, they got the part and they fixed the window for me. Bippity skippity. I also, Josh at Barhaven Honda, him and his wife who came to my shows, also have an amazing little pie company in a town outside of Ottawa. And they brought me in some pies. I purchased them, but I'd ordered some pies from them and we actually had an opportunity to have one. I brought it to Chris and Rebecca's for dinner. We had the Guinness pie, I believe it was. Oh my God, was it ever good? So good. Just meat and veggies, baked in an amazing pie crust. So delicious. Had that for dinner. And then we played some games. We played a game called Rival Restaurants. And it was fun. It's the only game I've ever ordered off of Kickstarter. As a matter of fact, as we speak, they have just launched another Kickstarter for an expansion for this game. And if you're interested, all right, because as far as I know, it's not really available at retail, like, unless the retailer ordered a shitload of them or something. But Rival Restaurants, great game. It's a game where everybody plays at the same time, so it's not like you take turns. It's the game happens in phases, but everyone does their phase at the same time. So you pick a chef, you pick a restaurant, you get some recipes, you get some ingredients, and the game just plays every day. You got to get your money. You got to go out and get some ingredients. You got to come back and cook some food, and you got to clean up after yourself for your restaurant, right? You get popularity points and shit. Just a great game. We played 2 full games of it. I think we had a great time. I will definitely be kickstarting the expansion set for it. It was just a really good time, and I got to hang out with my pals. Absolutely wonderful evening. I'm probably doing broad strokes in the game, but I really don't know how many people are invested in me talking about board games. Although I do have a lot more people reaching out saying like, hey man, I'd love to come to one of your game nights and I'd like to play some games and stuff like that. Well, cool. I would love the distraction to be able to hang out with some people that I like and play some games. So you guys want to do that? You just fucking let me know and we will do it. In terms of, so I think like I said, I did some stuff with Chris and Rebecca. The next day I did a long day of sampling, which I told you about. And then on Saturday night, I got to hang out with Mika and Mel. We played a couple games of Pandemic Legacy. We're moving right along through that. Great times with great friends. We had a good time, had some drinks. It was nice to see my pals. Their little fella was sick that night, so they kind of had to do like super parent mode, and I'm sure they had a long day on Sunday. But so all in all, great times with my friends. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me and having a great time. And I think I'll just wrap again. I'm sorry that was broad strokes, guys, but I think I'm going to wrap this one up with reading you guys everybody's meat lists here. So I'm going to hit the emails real quick. All right. Cause some people sent me emails with some little text prior to their lists. So I'll do the text portions and then we'll do the email portions. Doop ba deep ba squeep doop ba deep ba dow boop ba deep bow squeep squeep ba deep boo. All right. So I don't know who this person is. I'm getting a lot more emails on the list here. So let's see what we got here. So Cam sent me sent an email, and Cam said, "Hey Josh, sorry for the delay in getting this to you. They are in no particular order. However, I think it's safe to say the buffalo wings and the cup and char pepperoni pizza are 2 items that I would miss the most overall. I will ask April what her top 10 is as well and send that along. Be well, my brother Cam." And then he sent me his list. I will read shortly. I got a friend messaging me from Canada now saying she injured her throat at Gwen Stefani. I'd say the trip was a success. Well, Izzy, you listen to the podcast, so if you want to know exactly where I was when your message came in, you'll know based on the podcasts. So, What else we got here? Mika sent me one. Let's see. Mika sent me one. Finally. Hey, man, your achievements are yours, my man. I know I already congratulated you on your recordings, but I think it's worth saying again. So congratulations. Our party of 4 was happy to have come to witness it. I already mentioned to you, since I hadn't seen your act in so long, I thought it was interesting seeing the evolution of your bits. It was clear to see you maturing as a comedian. Thanks, buddy. I think you chose a good time to record and retire those bits for more reasons than one, which we won't get into since the horse is dead and buried. Well, thank you. He goes, you request for top 10 meat meals. Unfortunately, I don't eat much red meat anymore, so my list will cover it says may different meals. Sorry, may different meats, but I think it was supposed to be many different meats in no particular order. So everyone's on in no particular order, and I dig that. Sorry for the late response. Got to pick up the kids. No worries, buddy. I'll have your list for everybody in just a moment. And then my buddy Mark Forrester sent one. And Mark says, as I started to make my list, I quickly realized that I was over my 10 meats. But as I looked over a list, I'm unable to remove any of my choices. I also realized that it would be very difficult for me to be a vegetarian. In no particular order, the top meat meals that I'd miss. And then he puts them in there. So Mark, thank you for that. And then Cam sent me a correction, but I haven't read his list yet. So let's just see what it says. Hey buddy, listen to the last pod with you and your guest Chris. Realized I may have misunderstood the meats you miss concept versus meat meals on some of my submissions. He goes, bacon is by no means a meal. However, I have cooked half a package of bacon with the intent of using some for, say, a BLT, and then consumed every slice by slice before the bread even hit the toaster. That was a great meal. LOL. So if there is still time to revise the bacon one before the next pod, I'll resubmit a nicely toasted bacon, lettuce, then sliced tomato, cheese with salt and pepper and mayo. Depending on time of day, side of home fries or French fries. So there you go. So when I read Cam's list, just know if he says bacon, it's supposed to be a nicely toasted bacon, lettuce, thin sliced tomato and cheese with salt and pepper. Again, wasn't sure on the cup and char pepperoni on a pizza or pepperoni / meats on a pizza in general. I love pizza. Pizza with just cheese is good. So to clarify, a meat pizza versus no meat at all are two completely different experiences. I would miss a pizza without my favorite meat toppings. Looking at the rest of my list, I could easily add some sides to complete the meal, but my focus was on the meat component. Let me know if that made any sense. Yeah, it was great, dude. And of course, I messaged Cam right away and said it's all good. So without further ado, everybody, I am going to read. Some people just fired me a message, an email with the list. So these are all here. So I've got 5 different lists submitted by my friends. First one comes from Izzy, the person who is messaging me on Facebook about losing her voice at Gwen Stefani. Izzy sent me number 1, fresh seafood chowder would be on her list. 2, beef or pork cabbage rolls. Number 3, deer pepperoni sticks. That's an interesting one. We've had that before, actually. I think her and I worked at a place. There was a guy who had like pepperoni sticks, and I had crocodile, and I think the other one I had was like venison or something like that. Delicious, but oh man, did it ever stick between my teeth and whatnot. She said dinosaur chicken nuggets. That's interesting. So I'm gonna amend that to just chicken nuggets. 5, prosciutto and cream cheese wrapped asparagus. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good. Meat will definitely, you could bacon wrap anything. But again, I'm going to just say, I would imagine that's probably something fantastic. And again, I'm not trying to criticize anyone's lists, but you could still put cream cheese on asparagus. You know, I think the prosciutto is the meat part. But anyways, duck à l'orange, absolutely. Very, very good. Candied bacon. There we go. Another bacon submission. Maple bacon cupcakes. So now we're just going back to toppings, but bacon means a lot. Goose fondue. I don't know if I've ever had that. And then 10, a big, fat, tender, rare steak. Thank you, Izzy, for your list. Mika, my good buddy. Mika sent in chicken pad thai, salmon fried in lemon sauce and fresh dill, pulled pork sandwich with coleslaw inside. Mika actually made this one time. Beer butt chicken. He made a beer butt chicken. It was kind of funny because I guess you just basically take a chicken, take a can of beer, crack it open, stick it up the chicken's ass, and there's a what is it, like a little proper stand that Mika had for it. So the whole idea is the chicken is cooked upwards. I guess as the heat goes, the beer foams up on the inside and marinates the hell out of that chicken. It was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. But yeah, beer butt chicken. You'll have to make me one, Meeks, before I say goodbye to to white meat, which is in October 1st. No more white meat. So sometime this summer, buddy, beer butt chicken me. Classic Italian panini sandwich, piquant meats, Portuguese bun, hot eggplant, lettuce, tomato, mayo, provolone. So yeah, we've had those at Derian's. It was just a nice, just deli meat fucking bonanza, and they're delicious. Produce Depot Bank and Hunt Club sausages. Okay, so that's a name drop on them. They better be sponsoring you. Fine herb, fried in a pan, straight up. So just a delicious sausage. Okay, of course. Big Mac, of course, he says. Well, that would be your, I'm going to say hamburger, but that's your burger of choice. Mucho burrito, the mucho size, chorizo meat, all the fixins. And finally, jambalaya. I love it, like steak, fried chicken, you know, that kind of stuff. And never made your list. Well, you said you don't eat a lot of red meats anymore, so good on you. Cam's pre-amended list. Bacon done in the oven with maple syrup slightly drizzled on top. I think we know that is now a BLT extraordinaire. Number 2, Italian meats, capicola, mortadella, Genoa salami on a sub. Absolutely delicious. Number 3, pizza with a generous amount of cup and char pepperoni, and we know that's meats as well. Crispy hot buffalo wings. Yes, got to do wings one last time. A pot roast with gravy, absolutely delicious. Hot Italian sausage with peppers. Nicely barbecued cheeseburger, you bet your ass. A ribeye steak, right? Philly cheesesteak, and finally a Reuben sandwich. For me, the Reuben would be more of a Montreal smoked meat, but I feel you. And then, of course, his lovely lady April has sent in chicken wings for sure, and she likes charcuterie. So one last little charcuterie board. Burgers, of course, meatballs, stir fry, a steak, a nice chicken parm. Of course, you put a meat pizza there, pad thai as well, coming in twice, and then a Cantonese chow mein. Finally, Mark's list. All right, we got a meatball sub here. We got fried. Now, Mark did go over 10, but that's fine. I just wanted everyone's top 10. I was hoping for 10. You go over, doesn't hurt at all. Just gives me ideas. So Mark's got a meatball sub, fried chicken. He's also got chicken wings here. Steak, which is cooked cold steak sandwiches with blue cheese. Jumbo hot dog. Sausages, chicken shawarma, a meatloaf, pogo or a corn dog for my U.S. Listeners, turkey, prime rib, salmon cakes, lamb shanks. He's got a schnitzel here, schnitzel on the list, and finally souvlaki. And he goes, and of course burgers at the bottom. Didn't you have burger on the list already? Like a nice cooked burger? No, you did not. All right, of course, burgers. Yeah. So, gang, onesies, thank you for your sourced lists of meat. These definitely give me ideas. I'm going to try to put together my list for the next episode. Well, it won't be ready for the next episode. I'm literally turning this off when I'm done uploading this episode and then immediately recording the next one because it's starting to get late in the day. What time are we? 4:30, and I got to start thinking about getting my ass to Edinburgh to perform for a bunch of rowdy Scots. So, yeah, you guys, that was awesome. Yeah, you know, onesies, thank you so much. I do have a brand new shipment of DK books. Unfortunately, I'm trying to travel light and didn't bring them. Plus, I wasn't going to sit around and read a book, you know, this week in Scotland, and I was getting ready for you know, I was doing prep for the other one. So we're almost at the hour mark, guys. I think that'll do nicely for the episode. You know, coming up this week / a week ago. What do I have here? I got my sheet with all the things that I did. It's a much longer list of talking points. But coming up the next week, I do have, you know, my second appointment with my therapist. I also have some more samplings that I was be doing, more trip prep, excuse me, things like that. And of course, you know, the next episode, I guess, is halfway, you know, into the week at Scotland. My original plan was to record it on Sunday. You know, I had a tasting, but I'm like, I'll get up early Sunday morning and I will record the episode so that, you know, I can just do the whole trip and then have a big episode when I come back about how the trip went. But now, you guys, even though it's late, you'll end up getting 2 episodes that are all, you know, vast majority of them will be chatting about Scotland. So thank you guys for listening to the episode. It was longer than I thought it was going to be because I didn't feel like much happened, but instead I just bitched about my life, which is right. The one-man podcast. That's what you guys tune in to, and that's what you get sometimes. You get me telling stories about how life's just not on my side. Look, I got a good life. All right. I did recognize that before I started bitching. I'm happy to have opportunities that other people don't have. You know, so it's not that bad, but unfortunately that's just what anxiety and sometimes mental illness does is, you know, things aren't that bad, but it just doesn't look that way. And it's a little cool that the world is starting to get to a place where we're recognizing mental illness. You know, like when someone says, I have depression, they're not just like, oh, so you're just sad all the time. You just lay around feeling sad. You don't want to get to bed because you're sad. It's like, no, it's, you know, it's you know, depression for some people, you know, if not all, is a certain level of despair. And, you know, when you talk about people being in a state of despair, like it's rough, you know? Anyways, whatever. All I'm trying to say is just, it's not as cut and dry, you know? There's other diseases. It's like saying, oh, you have cancer. Well, just don't have cancer. That's what I tell people all the time when I have anxiety and they're like, just relax, take a breath. I'm like, if relax was the cure to anxiety, no one would have it. You know, it's just like saying to somebody who's got a, you know, a terrible disease, oh, just don't, feel better. You know, stay positive, of course. And I try to be a positive person, but I'm just saying that in the back of my head, I'm always like, okay, what could happen in this scenario? Let's make sure that we don't get caught with our pants down and we have a solution for it in the event that it comes up. So having said that, guys, next episode, we'll be talking about the first few days of the trip itself, the travel, some of the weekend stuff I had going on and what I did a little bit prior. Until then, for 5 minutes for me and however long you decide to wait till you listen to it, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will chat with you again soon.